You know, I've spent my whole life asking the deeper questions, and when you really look at what love is, the highest form of love is unconditional love. I think most of us, if we meditate on that, realize that's the highest form of love there is. It's a real challenge for us to give, but it's the magic that makes life happen. And it's magical because it's absolutely empty of anything, but it's full of everything. It makes the space for something new, yet it creates that something new, and it allows you to hold on to whatever you want to hold on. But unconditional love is the source of what I call radical being. And what's radical about it is that you're here, and that the world is beautiful, and it's beautifully chaotic. And we have billions of stars we can look at and go, how in the fuck? And how did I get here? And so radical being for me is really what spirituality is. By definition, spirituality is connecting to a greater whole. And we get into a lot of pain when we lose touch with what we really are and who we really are and why we are. And we forget that there's people that love us and there's people that we can love. So for me, spirituality and being are one and the same expression, but being present is really about taking time to worship what's right here, right now, right? The person that you're making love to, the child whose hand you're holding, your toe that you just stubbed and going, oh, sorry, baby. We can get over it. But knowing that it's just all magic, right? The deeper the questions you ask, the more impossible the answers get. Just sit and meditate on who am I, really? And you'll find out that you're everything. But when you ask what is everything, it's no thing. So for me, spirituality is radical being, and presence is really realizing that and looking at it and going, this is fucking amazing and wild. And thank you for coming. The question is the difference between being and doing, correct? Well, let's go on a short journey together. Repeat this after me if you'd like. This is a definition of consciousness that I think it's really worth becoming aware of. Consciousness is a psychic substance. Produced not blindly. But in living awareness. Of opposites. So what you see is that to be conscious, you have to be in living awareness, being of complementary opposites, the male and the female, the inside, the outside, the sleep and the do, the rest, the action, the eating and expressing. Those are the things that make consciousness. You cannot be consciously aware of something that's not moving. Consciousness has three essential requisites: space, time, and movement, right? So being is really the awareness that you're the one witnessing, and doing is the element that says, I can add something to the party or to the project or to the day or to the situation. You know, my child's frustrated because he can't get his shoe tied. I can add to that. I can add to the world. So the key thing is that being a psychic substance means it's tangibly real. We know when we're conscious of something. We know when we have knowledge of something. It lives inside of us. But the reality is that we need to always be aware that the two polarities, being and doing, also express themselves as yin and yang inside of us. And yin is the receptive, the anabolic, and yang is the catabolic, the expressive. So if we get too caught up in doing, then we literally are like a fire that runs out of fuel. So if we don't go inside and center ourselves in ourselves, then we bleed ourselves out trying to do or trying to give. That's why I always say I before we always. So being in yourself and honoring and worshiping your I and fulfilling your needs so your cup runneth over and you have something to give when you're really doing. Otherwise you just do yourself into lousy doing all the time. You just kind of get half-assed at it all, and then life goes flat. So in summary, consciousness is a psychic substance created not blindly, but in living awareness of opposites. And it's the true being of you that is witnessing that show. But is the ego that gets caught in the show and tries to identify itself by what it's doing while forgetting that it is really, ultimately, eternally being. That awareness plays in spirituality and gratitude. First of all, let's look at the word. Awareness. What does that mean? Where are you right now? You're right here. I'm in Austin, Texas. I'm from San Diego. So, in order to have the experience of life, we have to have a sense of awareness. Where are we? First of all, you have to be aware that you're in your body, right? People that aren't aware that they're in their body have lots of physical and emotional and mental problems. So awareness is the basis of I, and I cannot have meaning or purchase or currency without thou. It is the I-thou relationship that is the prerequisite for love to exist. I define love as the flow of energy and information through empathic and compassionate connection to self and or other. So if we don't have awareness, then we don't know who or where we are. Our I-ness is not substantiated. And to that degree, you cannot effectively love yourself or the others. So the I-thou relationship requires awareness, but beyond awareness is intention. Because God is unconditional love, everything's possible. It's as possible to punch someone in the nose as it is to kiss them and support them. So when you use intention, you take pure potential, that which is not polarized to yin and yang or male, female, and you put that in tension. And it is that tension that the flow of spirit follows. And when you're aware, the brush of your consciousness is artistic, and you put spirit in tension. And when you're aware of what you're intending, you realize the power of the magician within you. If you're unaware, then you've stubbed your toe more than once on the same curb.
Woo! Wow.
We're integrated, we're flowing down the middle of the river, but one bank is called chaos and the other bank is called rigidity. Yes. So if we, if we're not conscious and we don't direct our boat, we either have a choice to go with the river or against it. We all know what happens if you go against the flow of life. It hurts. But if we're getting too rigid, it means we're closing ourselves to possibilities, and it also means we are potentially becoming dogmatic, which means the focus of our worship is getting illusory. It's getting narrow and narrow to the point where we're forgetting about the truth of everybody else and everything else. If we go into chaos, it usually means we're in a transitional state. Change is always preceded by chaos because the ego is a control freak. So if we learn to put our awareness and our intention to stay in that balanced place in the middle of the river, but know that when chaos comes in our life, it's a good time to get still because chaos is loaded with information. The entire universe, all creation myths talk about the beginning as chaos, but chaos is what most people run from without realizing it's loaded with information. I'm a therapist. People come to me with all sorts of problems. I evaluate their chaos and I say, here's what I found, and this is what we can do to make meaning out of it for you. So if I just ignored chaos, I'd be a really shitty therapist and coach. But if you get to the other side and you get rigid, well, you know what it's like to be with rigid people. You know, I always tell people before you marry someone, make sure you can spend 2 or 3 days in a motel room with their parents.
Because that's where you're going to meet Richard.
Whoa. That's a tough one right there.